guys, it's Sam, and this is my spoiler-free review of Strange the Dreamer by Laini Taylor. Now, this is the first book in a fantasy young adult duology, and it follows our main character of Laszlo Strange. He is an orphan, and he has been raised in various places. Right now, he's residing in a library, and he has been obsessed with the lost city of Weep for his entire life. As a child, he heard stories about this city, and it had a different name at the time, but one day he woke up and the name was eradicated from his mind and every other mind of anyone that he knew that knew about it. This city, even before the name was changed to Weep, was always very secretive, closed off from the rest of the world, and was like this fantastical land that nobody knew anything about. So Laszlo has been studying this place forever, has been obsessed with it, he wants to go there, and then one day this man known as the Godslayer appears with a retinue and is asking for some of the greatest of that particular country to come with them back to Weep to solve a problem. Laszlo jumps at this opportunity to get a chance to go to this place that he's been dreaming about for so long, and everything kind of goes from there. So first off, when we talk about the world building, Laini Taylor has a beautiful writing style and that feeds her world building very well. She writes these just fantastical, out there, beautiful worlds, and this is no different. This does take place kind of within this sort of multiverse that she's created. If you've read the Daughter Smoke and Bone trilogy, then you know that there's kind of like multiple different worlds within worlds, and this takes place in one of those alternate ones. There's no crossover so far between the two series, but I feel like she could do that at some point in the future, or she could do that with later series, but it's always fun to kind of hear little snippets from some of the other worlds or from some of the other mythology that she's kind of weaving in and kind of making this little like multiverse that she has her own, which is fun. In particular, I love what Laini Taylor does with themes of mythology and also war. War is a common theme in now both of her series, and I just really love what she has to say about it, and I'll talk about that more within like the plot and the characters and stuff. Before we get into the character piece, because this does tie into the world and the themes that I just talked about, I wanted to have a quick trigger warning. There are definitely themes of systematic sexual assault. So there is no sexual assault on the page in this book, but there is discussion of it and a lot of just like brutality and oppression and sexual assault like linked in throughout the themes of this like war theme, so be aware of that if that is anything that is sensitive to you. Next, let me talk about our characters. I really enjoyed Laszlo because he is innocent, pure, and just wholly kind. It's an interesting character to read about because I'm more used to reading about more rugged characters, which I tend to go for anyway, but he is just so nice and honorable and honest, and it's very endearing. We also have another kind of main character that appears later on in the story that I'm not going to talk about a ton because she comes in later, but we almost have this dual POV going on. This is told in third person, but we kind of follow both of them eventually, and I also really enjoy her and a lot of the imagery surrounding her. Something I also really enjoy were some of these side characters, especially when you get to more of the stuff about Weep. So you have a lot of older characters that Laszlo is talking to and are very much traumatized by war. So like war and PTSD and stuff is a huge theme within this, and I really liked that element and how much that is explored and how much Laini Taylor just talks about the effects of war, the long-term effects of war, the generational trauma of war and all that stuff. It's, again, something that she's had in both of her stories, and I really enjoy it. I will say that overall, both the side characters and the main characters, I don't enjoy as much as the characters in Daughter Smoke and Bone. I was instantly in love with Kairu, for example, and the other side characters in Daughter Smoke and Bone. This definitely took me a little longer to really start to love them. I liked them, but to start to really like more pull for them, there are some characters I still don't feel that way about, and then it's just more of a tenuous hold on me, where Kuruma was like completely head over heels with her within the first couple of chapters. There also is the horrible trap of Insta Love within this. So this is again another theme that Laini Taylor kind of just stacks all of her cards on, and I thought that maybe it was just a Daughter Smoke and Bone thing, and sadly it is not. So if you're not a fan of Insta Love, I probably would steer clear of Laini Taylor. For some reason, a lot of people forgive her Insta Love in a lot of her books. I don't know why that is. I think it's probably her beautiful writing that just kind of makes you buy into it a little bit more. I forgave the Insta Love in Daughter Smoke and Bone, and I talked about that at length in my reviews of the series. This one, however, I do not really forgive it. I think it's a little bit lazy, and it just has to do a little bit more with her pacing, which I'll talk about more in the writing and plot portion. So lastly, let me talk about the plot. I think that Laini Taylor struggles a lot with plot and pacing. She has a beautiful writing style, she has beautiful worlds, and generally speaking, her characters are very good, but her pacing and her plot definitely suffer. I was talking with Sarah Jane of the Book Life about this book as I was reading it because she had read it shortly before me, and she said that she had read an interview where Laini Taylor said that she doesn't really write first drafts. She edits every line for this like beautiful writing style, and I think that is very apparent because she doesn't see the overall picture. She just sees it in very small chunks, and for pacing and plot, you kind of have to look at that overall picture. So I kind of feel like all of her books struggle with this pacing and plot issue, but this one in particular definitely does. The first half, maybe even more than half, is really slow. I would say the first quarter is like really slow. Like I was like, I am really struggling to get into this. It's beautiful. The writing is beautiful. The world is beautiful, but there's like nothing happening. And then a lot of it is very just like condensed into the end, and it's just like a whirlwind towards the end. And I feel like it could have just been better paced throughout. There's also an ending that is incredibly love it or hate it. So this is a good book to discuss with other people because I feel like there's nothing in between about that. Like you either really love it or really hate it. But overall, I ended up enjoying this book. Again, I love Laini Taylor's writing and I really enjoy this world, and I generally speaking really like the characters. I'm excited for the rest of the duology and to see what it brings, but I'm not as head over heels with it as I was for Daughter of Smoke and Bone. I don't forgive the Insta Love. I think there's a couple things plot-wise that are a little bit messy, but it's still a very enjoyable read, and I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. I am going to be doing a spoilery gush on this book, so I will link that on the screen if you're interested in more of my in-depth thoughts. So comment down below, let me know what you thought of Strange the Dreamer. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see all of you guys soon. Bye!